Yeah, we're live. Hi, guys.
The Blue Space is here to help you bring your renovation dreams to life. Explore quality, on-trend fixtures and fittings.
Most exquisite. Here in Ojante Tambo, we have what I believe is the most exquisite cyclopean architecture on Earth. I don't think that there exists anywhere on the planet cyclopean walls with tighter seams and more beautifully constructed than these.
Look at this curvature. They didn't just stick a block there. They actually curved that rock and cut it into these other rocks, and it's beveled.
It fitted seamlessly with these other stones that are butt up against it. It's absolutely amazing.
How'd they do it?
Nobody knows. But you know what's really interesting here too is you have these beautiful cyclopean stones. These are the beveled polygonal. But then you also have here the rectangular interlocking, the Tiwanaku style blocks, and you clearly have Inca architecture. So you have all three of these dynamics in one place. That's what makes Ojante special to me.
I totally agree.
Hey, Di. Hi, Phil. Good to see you guys.
Here. Exactly what
Hang on, it's crooked.
I also believe that Ollantaytambo wasn't finished, so it was on the way to be, built. So that's why we have so many differences in the architecture.
The narrative here, the conventional narrative, is that the Inca were progressively getting better in their architectural style. In other words, they started off with the crude, smaller blocks, and they gradually worked their way up to these cyclopean walls, and then eventually the summit of the hill here with the Temple of the Sun, the large megalithic stones. But I think what we have here is a clear case of the Inca attempting to emulate this kind of cyclopean
Tim Alberino doesn't copyright. I'm pretty sure he doesn't copyright.
construction, the construction of the gods from the Golden Age in their repairs, and also in the walls that they built. You'll see there's Incan walls that are made of rudimentary stones with the trapezoidal windows, and they're trying to imitate and emulate what they see right here behind us, these megalithic trapezoidal windows. So it's a test case for our theories and for over and against the conventional narrative. We believe this is extremely ancient. This is high technology, cyclopean architecture, the technology of which has been forgotten. And they say that this is the progressive understanding and capabilities of the Inca.
And the only problem with that is that this makes up the original construction, as opposed to the true Incan construction, which is either on top or later. So did they get less skilled over time? And we wouldn't think so.
That's a good question. Did they actually get less skilled over time? That's actually a good question. That may be the case.
I forgot to press the arrow, guys. Sorry.
Of the stones here in Ojante Tambo is the fact that the surface appears to have at one time been vitrified, smooth. It's this glassy, smooth surface that has since worn away over time. But imagine these stones finished in their original condition, vitrified, smooth, and the size, the shape, it's just so incredibly impressive what the megalith builders were able to do.
And of course, the technique was forgotten, and the Incas, they just recovered this space and reused it with another purpose, but they probably never knew the original purpose of it.
Yeah.
Right?
And they couldn't match the technology.
No. We always talk about the conventional narrative, but the conventional narrative here is that the Incas stopped building because the Spanish arrived.
Yes.
I don't believe that for 1 minute. I think that the megalith builders, the very ancient people who were here, stopped building because of a cataclysm. Yes. A cataclysm, a flood, an earthquake, gone.
It certainly looks that way. Things are thrown around, mass rocks.
Yeah, you have big rocks that look like they were just tossed down the mountain. I mean, what could have done that? A flood could have done that. An earthquake could have done that.
Yes, but not like a cannonball.
Not a cannonball.
At all.
No.
Right?
Cannonball wouldn't move these big stones.
No, at all.
This stone is trademark Tiwanaku.
Wow.
It's the rectangular shape, it's got the vitrified surface, and it has the
I wonder how big the cyclopses were. They must be huge animals to be able to pick up rocks like that.
clamps.
Yes.
It has these indentations, which were clamps. We know that they were clamps because in Tiwanaku, you still have stones with the clamps.
Exactly the same shape.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
What do you think the clamps were used for? Because I've never got a clear understanding of what these clamps were for. Sometimes they were copper, sometimes they were gold.
Yes, it's metal. It's a sort of age, right?
There'd be
shape.
another stone here,
Another stone
and
here,
the
and you
clamp
connect
would come
both.
in.
So you
Right.
just interlock them. I mean, if you have this shape and you have another one here, and over this stone is another one, it's really, really well.
It would lock it up.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
But this is, for me, the proof, the fingerprint of Tiwanaku and Ollantaytambo.
Absolutely.
Same megalith builders.
Yes, same guys.
Tiwanaku is the site of an ancient megalithic complex in Bolivia near Lake Titicaca. Like the megaliths in Peru, it is located at a very high altitude, well over 12,000 feet above sea level. The civilization that founded Tiwanaku is unquestionably pre-Inca. Indeed, the Inca revered the site because they believed that it was built by their divine ancestors at the dawn of time, before they perished in a flood. It is not coincidental that the trademark architecture of the Tiwanaku civilization can be found intermingled among the megalithic ruins of Ollantaytambo, Machu Picchu, and Cusco. This is a clear indication that all of these ruins were built by the same Cyclopean masons long before the Inca reoccupied them. Hey Gary, take a look at this. Run your hand over the surface of this stone here. It's like your countertop at home, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that tells you what these stones look like originally when they were originally constructed. This is absolutely incredible. How did they do that? How did they vitrify the surface of these stones? I mean, we know how we do it today with granite countertops, but
Yeah.
you know, the entire surface of these stones was soft and glassy like this. It just adds to the mystery of how in the world they were able to cut these blocks and make them so perfect. This is a really interesting stone here. We don't know exactly how they form the stones, how they fit them, and we don't know how they cut them. But this may be a clue because
Diane, they reckon AI is going to come up with formulas to beat cancer and things like that. So there is some positive things with AI. Not many though.
it appears that this stone was in the process of being cut with some kind of a saw. I think you would agree, Gary, that even with our modern tools today, this stone would be very difficult to cut.
Yeah, you can see where they were cutting the entire rock and how flat it is. But the clue here is they were cutting this right here at this point when they stopped. And it tells you that the blade or whatever they're using was incredible. The other thing is that they did stop in the middle of construction.
They
What do you
did.
think about that?
Well, they did. There's blocks laying all over the place here that are unfinished. So something compelled these people to stop building. Let's talk about the size of these stones. Each one of these stones weighs approximately 80 tons.
Hey, boss, good to see you, mate.
And again, like we see in all the megaliths everywhere, all around Peru and all around the world, you have these really ingenious devices here made of stone for earthquakes, anti-seismic. So these walls were built to flex. They were built to flex. That's why you have these slender pieces in between, so that the walls can flex with earthquakes. So certainly these megaliths were built to withstand the movements of the earth and perhaps cataclysmic forces. It's, in every sense of the word, a monumental task to build something like this. In fact, they say that the quarry for these stones is way up the side of the mountain there.
What is really unbelievable and unique in this place that it really hooked me to study this place is about the Pyramid of Paccaritampu, which is the biggest sundial in America, I believe. And it's designed in regards of the sun rising on winter solstice,
a sundial, a giant sundial,
equinoxes, and summer solstice. So from here, we can see the pyramid upside down over the terraces of farming of Ollantaytambo, where you need to get up in the mountain to look down and have the full perspective, and you see like a two-dimensional pyramid with no top. It's designed in regards of the sun rising. We have the main street here, can you see it? It's a double wall street, and this line is also coming to this temple here and going all the way, right, connecting with the sunrise on the winter solstice. The sun is coming and rising from the mountain, between the mountains, and it's making a line.
What'd you find out, Vas?
You know what? It's been a while, but I'm ready to say it. Retirement ain't what it's cracked up to be. I could smack gold.
Hawks have the sharpest eyesight of any animal. They can spot a rabbit more than 3 kilometers away. Now, imagine
A ray of light in this street here. So then we have the equinoctial line that divides the pyramid into half. One of the faces here, we have a line of trees, and the sun, when it's coming from these mountains here, make this pyramid half. In line,
Wow.
right? So it's saying equinox. But that line will never move, you know?
So obviously these cyclopses are pretty intelligent, that they can read the stars and that like that. Wonder what they look
Always
like.
The sun will rise and set east and west on the equinoxes, right? But this line here is giving us a really good clue about, you know, the wobbling of the axis of the Earth. This is the most important line that makes the whole pyramid. And it's because it's connected with the winter solstice and with the axis, with the angle of the axis of the Earth. And that is very important because we can date in regards of this wobbling, right? So if it's not precise, you know, making the line of the winter solstice, is clearly a really ancient civilization, right? And with all the technology to do something like this, to understand, you know, that the Earth it's moving,
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
steady, and to make a huge representation of a pyramid.
Yeah, they had to be highly intelligent. I agree.
Something that we didn't know until the modern age. You know,
Yes.
the inclination of the Earth and the
Yes.
wobble of the planet. This is information that's relatively new to modern man. But here we see it depicted in a holographic pyramid in the sacred valley of Peru, thousands of years ago.
Yes, ancient time.
Ancient times. And you know, also one remarkable thing is that the three lines that make this pyramid are all meeting here.
Through solar drift, you can date when this was built. And when do you think that is? How long ago?
Exactly. 10,000 BC, 12,000 years ago.
Now you realize that that completely contradicts the science.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
People come to Peru and they look at the megaliths and think, wow, the Inca was so amazing.
Vas, when I was a kid, you'd watch Sinbad's voyages and there were cyclopses in them, and they were always giants. And they always had hoof feet.
And then they go to a place like Egypt with the very same cyclopean architecture, and they think, wow, the Egyptians were so amazing. But they never connect the dots and realize that what they are looking at are the fingerprints.
Yeah, but what hybrid? What animal only has one eye?
Of a much older civilization, who both the Inca and the Egyptians were attempting to emulate. Even the protrusions on the stones in Peru, which are thought of as trademark Andean, can be found on massive megalithic stones in China. Could it be that our perception of history is flawed? Was there a remarkably advanced civilization building megaliths all over the earth in the prehistoric past until a cataclysm of biblical proportions obliterated their world? We think so.
Okay, so I wanted to have a conversation with these two guys. I've been on both of their YouTube channels, and as Darren said, you both are approaching. It's funny because you almost have the exact same amount of subscribers right now, right? Within a couple hundred, I think. of each other on YouTube. And these guys have huge, popular YouTube channels. Josh with What Lurks Beneath and Keith with End Times Productions. And I've really,
we've done a few of End Times Productions.
The content that they have, it's been interesting to see these topics that we're discussing at this conference in the last, I'd say,
Diane,
just exploding into the
you can get them on YouTube still, Sinbad movies.
Mainstream. And it's because of guys like them.
When I was a kid, my dad took me to the theatre to see The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. We love them sort of shows, me and Dad.
And I'm curious. So we're going to talk about a bunch of different topics today. But to begin this discussion, I have a couple of questions because I got my little dinky YouTube channel at 275,000. These guys almost have 1 million each. You'll probably be at both of you at 1 million at the end of the year, I'll bet. So, and that's hard to do. It's really hard to get that many subscribers on YouTube.
Geez, I can't get past 320. That tells you how good
their content is. So I have some questions and a couple of questions, and then we're going to launch into a series of topics here. And can we get the countdown on the clock there, if that's possible? So, what would you guys attribute the mainstreaming of these topics to? What do you think is happening in the culture? What's going on? Because these topics are going mainstream.
I would like to say that the reason why these topics are going mainstream right now is because of the Lord Jesus Christ. He wants this information to be disseminated to the public. He wants people to understand our past, our hidden history, and how that relates to all the things that are happening today. So he's using people like me, people like him, people like
you. Good Donna. So I'm already subscribed.
Get this information out to people and try and piece it together in a way that really does make sense. Because separately, it doesn't really make sense to a lot of people. But there's all these pieces of the puzzle that we can put together in a way that helps people understand.
I'm already subbed to him, Diane, so we've played him before. I think that's Justin Fall, the End Times Reduction guy. I think that's his name.
And the bigger picture of what's happening. What do you think about that, Josh?
I mean, yeah, and just over the last 20 years alone, technology has increased so much to where we can openly share our experiences and all the strange phenomena that a lot of people have seen or encountered, where before they kind of kept that behind closed doors. It was a hush-hush thing. People are going to think I'm crazy. But now you have pockets of communities and forums and places where people can share their stuff. It further validates the truth of who he is. And I say this to a lot of people I talk to, is that I've been doing this for years, and everything I ever research and read and come across, it just further strengthens my validation of who God is and what he's done and the sacrifice he made. And yeah.
And what has been, have you seen an evolution in the perspective of Christians? Because you guys interact, and keep your mic close to your face when you talk. The evolution of the perception of Christians, because you guys are interacting with a lot of people on your channels. And what has that been like?
And in my experience, I've noticed there's kind of a separation. There's people like you guys, everybody here, amazing people who are just super supportive and loving and kind, and they express, the values of Jesus Christ and Christianity in such a beautiful way. And then you have the other side, the people who are bitter, angry. They're looking, everything you say, they're trying to tear you apart. And, it might not be because something you say, it might be something because inside their own person, they're feeling, upset about something. So they want to take it out on everybody else. And, we try and just come at these people with love and understanding and acceptance and say, you know what, even though you're angry, we still love you, and, the way Jesus told us to love our neighbors as ourselves. I think that's something that we should really strive for. And it's exemplified online because people feel anonymous.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So what do you think about that, Josh?
with the popularity of the Book of Enoch now, and just the availability of incredible podcasts. I mean, you don't have to look very far on YouTube to find just a wealth of great information. I mean, you have a ton of great content. There's so many guys out there, I can't even name them all, but the first one that comes to my head is L.A. Marzulli. I mean, this is just there that you could watch and digest. And so I think more than ever, Christians, we have so much resources available that really give us a lot more insight into just everything, you know, the antediluvian period and just everything up until now and what it's going to look like.
I'm going to have one more comment on this, and then we'll dive into the other topics. But you know, what I've noticed is there's a lot of tribalism. You know, I don't even know how to describe this community, the Nephilim community. I've never known how to describe it. But for years, this content, when you talk about, you know, cryptids like Bigfoot, UFOs, and aliens, and of course all of the content that revolves around Genesis 6, was always fringe in the church and in media. It was fringe, and so it was sequestered to, you know, these bizarre corners of the internet, and nobody really ever talked about it. Even Genesis, even the sons of God and the episode of the Watchers.
Oh, that's not Justin. Okay.
You know, just 10 years ago was still taboo in most churches, and now that's beginning. Those walls are beginning to come down. And there's a lot of new people coming who have never heard about any of this content. And it's like I said, these topics are going mainstream. It's very interesting to witness this. Me personally, to be sitting with a guy like Michael Knowles at the Daily Wire, and him being a Catholic his entire life, and all of these topics, all the Genesis 6 topic, all of that domain, totally new to him and most of his audience. And you see the original, you know, we're used to the original debates around these topics where, you know, you have the minority, us, who are arguing for what's called the supernatural view of Genesis 6. And this was the early days, because I don't really engage in these arguments anymore. That was happening in the early days, and now there's a flood of new people coming to the topic, and you're having to rehash all of these old debates again.
Absolutely, I find that extremely interesting, and it's a blessing, because we can't assume everybody's on the same level and has the same level of understanding and knowledge about these topics. And really, one of the interesting things to me is, you know, Book of Enoch starts out saying this book was written for the people living in the end. And now all of a sudden we are entering this new age. We are entering the age of AI and quantum and robotics and all these things at the very time that the Book of Enoch is gaining popularity. Like, I don't think that can be a coincidence.
Yeah.
The government often introduces superannuation changes in the federal budget, which can affect things like annual contribution limits.
Australia, are you wasting more than you think? Let's start unwasting food by turning last night's dinner.
Yeah, and I have to say, I feel like I'm partly responsible for some of the controversy out there with Enoch, because I published Enoch, which many of you have brought here, with Luke Rogers and Nate Henry from Blurry Creatures, and like it seems like as soon as we put that out there, there's like a firestorm of controversy, and we got guys like Wes Huff out there now trying to debunk the Book of Enoch and all these different people, and so we might be a little responsible for that. You want to say something in regard to that?
You know, when people talk to me about this stuff, and you know they want to get up in arms about it, I just look. I'm not a full academic. One of my favorite writers that I've been really getting into, and he has an incredible wealth of information that's on YouTube and just presentations and podcasts. It is Dr. Michael Heiser. He's an incredible person. So, you know, there's a lot of people are kind of dipping their toes into it. And this is pertaining to the supernatural worldview of Genesis 6 and Enoch. I just say, you know, go watch some of his stuff, read some of his books. That just kind of gives you a ground level. And it's really eye-opening. I remember when I was kind of starting to go through his stuff and you know, kind of get the idea of we want to be part of the family. Kind of just, you know, it clicks. It kind of changed your perspective for a while, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with everything you just said. And I think it's we have an opportunity right now to reach the world and reach them with this information that they've never heard, especially like the ancient alien crowd and stuff like that. They don't see the whole picture, you know, they see it in their very specific terms. But if we can broaden that scope that they're looking through and say, hey, check this out, you know, this is actually a biblical concept. And then if they're like, well, the book of Enoch's not biblical, you can say, yeah, well, we're not saying that the Lord wrote it. It's maybe it's not gospel, right? It's not, it doesn't mean it's not something that you should read. It was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's a legitimate ancient manuscript that can be seen through a historical lens. And when you use that in connection with reading scripture, the connections formed that are undeniable. And these things should be, they should be looked into and they should be understood in that way, the way that they saw it, because we are entering this time in our world that is becoming more relevant than ever before.
Well, let's dive into these topics. You guys want to walk us through some of these topics?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think is going on with disclosure at the moment? We've had a lot of hit pieces come out with the Arrow, with the Wall Street Journal's article. Are they trying to shut it down again?
This is something that I'm going to be discussing at length with Congressman Burleson later today. And there's no question that the Wall Street Journal article was an attempt to quell public interest in the topic of UFOs, because the floodgates are starting to open. You know, obviously, and we'll be diving into this topic again later.
It's blasé now, isn't it? You see a UFO filmed in the sky and it's no big deal anymore because it happens so often.
With the congressman, but we've had 2 hearings and we've had some incredible disclosures, and there's a lot of controversy, you know, in the background. You talk about a fractionated audience, a tribalistic audience. It doesn't get worse than the UFO community. And I've been like on the outside of that community for a long time, and really talking to you guys about the topic, but not really talking to the UFO community, right? Not really a part of UFO Twitter, UFO X, which is a cesspool. So I've been on the outside of that thing, looking in and doing my own thing, and then now suddenly I'm like in the middle of it, and it's and the players in that game, like I'm suddenly in their midst. They're like, who the heck is this guy? You know, like I was just in, and again, I'm getting into stuff I'm going to be talking about with Eric later on, but I was just in Mexico City with Congressman Burleson, and hopefully I'll have time to get some pictures to show you guys when I talk to him later on this evening. And and Stephen Greer was there, and some other guys that are very prominent in the UFO community. I was with Jaime Maussan, and that's literally, I walked in the room. Okay, I'm going to have to table this for later because I'm taking up. I'm crossing into the conversation I'm going to have with Burleson. But I'll just say this: I walked into the room, and literally everybody looks at me because they're all standing around the Buga sphere. And they look at me, and I just walk in because Burleson wanted me to be with them, and they're like, literally, their faces were like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And I'm like, I just was thinking, I came here to look at this thing that was made in somebody's garage. We'll table that for later. Yeah, we'll table that for later. That's going to be with the congressman.
You know,
that's some sort of free energy device, I bet.
One of the things that I've asked is why, out of all the time in history, why has it suddenly exploded? Not the interest in UFOs, but the UFO disclosure. Why has that movement gained so much momentum?
There's too many cameras around.
Just because of the access of information.
Yep.
But maybe it's just, you know, the conspiracy theorist in me that I'm like, well, maybe that there's something else here. Are we being conditioned for something?
Well, as I always say, the government's not a great word for this, but let's use the word government. The government cannot control the phenomenon at all, never has been able to. All they can do is control the narrative surrounding the phenomenon. And as the phenomenon burgeons, they have to scramble to construct the narratives to catch up and to keep the public thinking about the phenomenon the way they want them to. You know, hence UAP instead of UFO. The change of the nomenclature was not incidental. It was It was done purposely to shift the attention. And you know, the only ones who are saying this are me and Richard Dolan, which that puts me in good company. So to shift the narrative away from all the skeletons in the closet in regard to UFOs, because there's a lot, and the government is implicated in some really nasty things. And so they change the nomenclature, they shift the attention away from the decades of research.
Guys, I'll come back to him. I want to show you that boy who has an open vision. It's very touching, actually. Here it is.
Bloody hell. Brown out and put the new brown in.
See, the nurses have no.
This is really moving, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're reacting to a video I just saw on TikTok of a young boy who has a vision of Jesus in heaven. Oh, it started playing. So he must have gotten in some type of accident. He was in the emergency room, and he starts having this vision of his dad who had passed away, seeing Jesus, he's seeing heaven. You let me know what you think, if this is genuine or not. I think this is 1,000% genuine.
So do I.
How and why would a kid make this experience up, or in this traumatic moment just start saying he saw Jesus? So this is super powerful. As you can see in the comments, people are like, he saw Jesus, this is real. Let's watch this. And I've only watched a small clip of this. We'll watch it all together and I'll react as we go. But this is super, super powerful.
Nice deep breath. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm a bad kid.
You're not.